The secrets of building a pelvic health empire that no one is talking about. Let's get into it. So, most people think, okay, I'm going to quit my job and then I'm going to go work for myself. I'm going to have as many patients as I want, and I have now made it. And that is actually not the case. You now just have created another job for yourself. And I get it. This was me. I just wanted to replace my income. And I thought, oh my gosh, balloons would fall from the sky. And now I have made it in life. And I quickly realized that wasn't the case. So the reality of that situation was, I call this phase one. Phase one is where you are just in the trenches. You are seeing patient after patient after patient. You have no admin. You're coaching online. You're doing all the things. You're answering the phones. You're scheduling the people. You're handling objections. You are handling all the financials. You are handling, equipment management and supplies and all that stuff. That is on you. And you basically end up working from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, 6 to 7 days a week. And in this phase, you start to, depending on how many clients you get, you start to build up these clients and you start to actually make money. And when you start to make money, you're like, oh my God, I just made past 8K a month. I'm freaking rich, because as therapists, we didn't make more than that. And so it's just like freaking amazing that you can do it the way you want to do it and make that money. But here's the reality that no one told me. Again, no one told me this. I had to figure this all out, which is why I created PelviBiz. I didn't realize that that actually wasn't a business, because a couple of things happened. There was one time I got very, very sick. And I remember I had a health coach at the time, and she was like, Kelly, if you get sick, what's going to happen? I was like, I don't know. It's fine. I'm not going to get sick. I'm young. I got sick. I got massively sick. I had no voice. I couldn't do anything. And that was the moment that I realized I don't have a business. I don't. The business is run by me. If you don't have me, who's answering the phones? Who's treating the patient? There was also another moment where I realized, wait, I want to go on vacation. I want to go hang out with my family. My dad at the time was diagnosed with cancer, and he was planning this big trip for all of us to get together. And I was like, I don't know if I can come because I have all these patients. And that was another aha moment where I was like, I can't do that because I have patients and I actually now am locked into these patients. And I just got out of a job that I was locked into patients. I was like, so what's really the difference? There was no difference. I was still in an 8 by 10 room treating patients constantly, locked into a time slot that, me and the patient agreed upon to actually treat. And that was a big moment for me where I was like, wow, I actually don't own my time. They own my time. The patients own my time. And I was like, how do I do this differently? And I started to search for things, and no one really had a pathway for me. I had to figure it out. And so what I realized was phase one compiled basically of you working your butt off from like 7 a.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. If you have kids, trying to figure out where to get the kids in there. I didn't have kids, so I just like really just, I grinded, I hustled, trying to do all the different things. And then trying to build up cash flow to where you're like, okay, maybe I can hire. But at that point, you're so freaking scared to hire because you're like, I can't do that. No one paid me higher than 80K. So how am I supposed to pay a therapist that's wanting 95,000 as a new grad? How could you do that? So it really had me pondering of like, what am I going to do? So I kept working and working and working. Well, the problem was this. I got to the point where my body was like so tired. Like imagine treating guys 60 patients a week. I did that. 60 patients just on one care. That's not calling those patients. That's not booking new clients. That's not doing anything else to run the business. It's just seeing patients. And I hyper focused on that for 3 months straight. I was in a basement at the time. I became so white, I was unrecognizable. I probably had so many deficiencies I didn't even know about. I would then go home and do laundry for 2 to 3 hours at night because those 60 patients, there was a lot of laundry. I bought my own laundry. I didn't have laundry service. We didn't even have a space for laundry. I had a rolling cart that I would shove underneath our admin's desk every single day that I have to bring to and from the clinic and throw it in the back of my car, or the laundry would fall out. Had to pick it back up and haul it up and down my stairs, do the laundry, bring it all back down the next day and go back to it. Like, this is the stuff that no one tells you about. But it does get better. This is like the phase that I would say most people stop at. They believe that this is how you build an empire. That is not it. This is how you build a freaking job. It's not an empire at all. You just now have less rules for yourself. That's it. And you may be making more money, but now you have no time whatsoever. So do you want that? At one stage in your life, you may be like, yeah, that's all I want is freaking money. I get that because I did move through those phases too. But it will come down to where you want money and time. You don't just want money. So then phase two in all this is where you actually now have to hire. You have to learn leadership skills. You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to team build. You have to learn how to set expectations. You have to learn how to set deadlines. You have to learn how to actually become a different person, because what we were taught in school was just to freaking teach people, or like to help patients. We weren't taught how to communicate effectively. And that's what you got to do as a leader, because you're going to be stepping into a leadership role. Because these people that are coming to hang out with you at the work or in, online space, they want to be led. And are you ready to lead these people? Are you? Most of y'all are not. You have no freaking clue. I didn't either. I'm not saying, I'm perfect. Not at all. I had to go through so much hardship to learn actually how to be a leader. And in phase two, you start to hire people, and then you're like, oh, okay, my pay or my take home is actually going down. And you're like, great, now I'm going back down. But the reality is you're paying people to get back your time. You're paying people to get back your time. And so you start giving away some of the money, the profit that's to employees. Maybe it's an admin, maybe it's a provider, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a personal trainer, whoever it is. And in return, you're going to get a little slice of your time back, because now you're not stuck in the room. And at this point, some providers really just stay content with that. They're like, I think I made it now. I'm still treating, and that's okay. And then they tell themselves a story about how it's okay and how they love seeing patients, and that they still want to see patients. But then on the other hand, they tell themselves the story that all they want to do is hang out with their kids and be with their kids and have time for that, and hang out with their spouse and be able to travel. And so they have two conflicting minds that are happening over here. They got one brain that's like, I want all this freedom. And then they got this other brain like, I love treating patients. And it's like, that it doesn't work. It does not work. So then you have to get to the point where you have to move to stage three. Stage three is where you actually get the money and time. This is how you actually build a true empire. This is how you build something that's actually going to last. Meaning, you have at least two providers on board, whether or not they're coaches, whether or not they're PTs, OTs, therapists, personal trainers, whoever they are, but they're at least two, and they're full time. When you have two full-time providers on, okay, you can then pull yourself out completely. You do not have to see another patient. Now, before you guys get all crazy, because I know you're going to come after me, okay, and say, Kelly, but I want to treat freaking patients. Okay, well, guess what? At any point in time, you can give any of your employees a break, and you can go back in there and see those patients. No problem, and I'm sure they'd be very happy to have you do that, okay? I'm sure they'd be very happy. So don't think because you don't have a schedule that you aren't worthy. It's really actually at this phase, people not understanding their worth, because their worth was into putting into patients and giving to patients. That's their worth. And so they feel like, well, if I'm not seeing patients, then I have no worth. No, you as a business owner, your job is to lead, which doesn't mean that you're going to have stats and stats and stats of how many patients you saw. So you have to be willing to change as a human and change your brain and change your thought process and know that you're doing what you need to be doing, leading, looking at numbers, looking at stats, coming up with a new thing, making sure everyone on that team is so nurtured, making sure you know every single thing about your team members, making sure that everyone's taken care of. All that stuff takes time, money, effort, all the things. So your role and your job has to switch and become someone different. And most people aren't willing to change who they are because they believe, this is good enough. And I don't want to really get uncomfortable to go to the next level. And if you guys truly want to build an empire, if you truly want to build something that actually builds time and money, you have to get to phase 3 and not stop at phase 1. At phase 1, sure, you can make $30,000 a month and you could be very wealthy, but you will have zero time to yourself. You'll have zero time for your kids. You will have zero time to do anything you want, and you will become resentful and hate your life and quit your business. Within 5 years, you will quit your business. At phase 2, where you're like hiring a little bit, you maybe have a couple staff members, you're still going to get burnt out because at that phase, your brain is going to be like, oh my God, I got to go treat a patient. And then I got to go do this task now for the business. And then I got to go back to treating a patient. Oh, wait, now I got to help a staff member. Oh, wait, now I got to do this training over here. And your brain is so fried because you're not time blocking your day. Or, yeah, you're not time blocking it. And you got all these many different tasks that you're just like this on a hamster wheel. And at this point, you don't have systems really in place and you're just trying to figure it out and just keep going. That's it. You will burn out, and more than likely within 5 years, will be done. The empire stage is where you get to a place where you have time and money. You're not burnt out because you're not in the hamster wheel. You now have systems in place. The systems help automate a lot of things that take stress off you and pressure off you. The systems keep everyone accountable. So you're not like, what's happening over here? What's over here? What's happening over here? So that you're focused on what you need to be focused on and not spinning your wheels constantly. And then what has to happen is it doesn't just like stop at level 3, you've made it. You have to keep level 3 up. It keeps going. This is the stuff that no one talks about. And so whether or not that looks like a partnership with one of your therapists, maybe one of your therapists buys into you, maybe you sell to one of your therapists, maybe you keep it going and you have another location. But you have to have one proven model first, and then you can go on. This also applies to online. This is not just brick and mortar. So maybe you've gotten really good at online. Now you have to hire team members online, and they can be virtual, that actually going to help you deliver more care to more people. That's huge. So if you guys are like, how do I freaking build an empire? It's not more Con Ed. It's you hitting the 3 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. And so in PelviBiz, I have specifically come up with this model. It's audit, attract, accelerate. That is my model to pathway to get you guys to where you can be making 70, 80, 90, 100K months and actually never see a patient again. And if you truly want to build wealth, this is how you do it. And this is the model of how it has to go. So if you're stuck at stage 1, text me. Guys, text me at any time. 703-783-2388. That is my number. Okay, and it is me. If you're stuck, text me and let me get you unstuck because I know the pathway to get you unstuck because I've helped over 400 providers get unstuck and have unbelievable numbers and get their time back and get their money back. Okay. So if you're looking for help, please let me know and let's talk soon, guys. All right. Bye-bye.